Well, hello readers by eyes and by ears. This is Mari Chan and welcome back to my channel. Um, it is September 20th after our live recap and discussion of Yu Volume 4, and I've gone through my day, done the things I need to do, and I'm sitting here at 8:35 p.m. and I'm like, I could read something. So this is exactly what I am going to do. I am going to read some to you. I don't even know how far we'll get, but I'm just going to read whatever I can. And yeah, let's just go ahead and go. Hopefully we'll get some fluff in Yu Volume 5 by Meatbun. So I hope you all enjoy. Chapter 131. I love you. Oh my gosh. That's how we're starting? Shoot. Okay. Morsi's head snapped up. Goo Mahng's lashes fluttered in the dim lamplight as he slowly opened his eyes, a deep oceanic blue. He stared blankly at Morsi. Not yet fully conscious, expression guided only by instinct, his gaunt face was relaxed and soft. He looked unbearably gentle, just the way Goo Mahng ought to look. My Royal Highness, why are you crying? He's so cute. His voice was a murmured sigh, but before Morsi had the chance to respond, Goo Mahng's dreamlike expression disappeared as wakefulness returned. Morsi watched as each remnant emotion of his past, shock, fear, attachment, cruelty, guilt, rushed up like the tide, washing away the tenderness in his eyes. Goo Mahng sat up, yanking his hand from Morsi's palms, his true face hidden behind the mask of viciousness he had long grown used to wearing. Morsi, are you out of your mind? Who let you come to the Asura room for me? Don't you know? Morsi's sudden embrace cut him off. The man's warm and sturdy arms wrapped securely around him, as if bringing him out of a frozen lake and into the longed-for warmth of spring. His blue eyes widened. He was so shocked he forgot what he wanted to say. Morsi held him tightly, chin pressed to the top of Goo Mahng's head, kissing and caressing his hair. I already know everything. At that simple sentence, Goo Mahng's body tensed. He squirmed, trying to push Morsi away, but before he could put his weight into it, he felt a shudder through the man holding him. Shizun, don't say any more foolish words, or do any more foolish things, Morsi rasped. Goo Mahng was at a loss. All these years, he thought, he had disguised himself very well. He'd built up a hard outer shell so everyone would only see his decisive cruelty and brutal hostility. Yet he'd woken up to discover this mask had been shattered. Before him lay the person he wanted to protect more than anyone, eyes scarlet-rimmed, hand reaching toward his soft, helpless heart. He refuted it on instinct. Morsi, you only know the half of it. And what does my business have to do with you? I told you a long time ago that we're not the same kind of person. I'm really... Morsi cupped a hand around the back of his head, his voice muddled and slightly nasal. You're really not like that. Goo Mahng stared at him, speechless. It was as if a layer of ice stood between them with Morsi on the outside, trying to embrace Goo Mahng trapped within. No matter how cold the dark ice was, Morsi would never back down. And so, little by little, the ice thawed. Little by little, it cracked. You really didn't want to kill or fight. You never wanted to hurt me. You didn't want to avenge yourself on anyone. Morsi's voice was low. Earlier, he had cried while Goo Mahng slept. He was no longer willing to shed tears now that Goo Mahng was awake. Goo Mahng had suffered enough. He didn't want to make this soft yet tenacious creature worry any more about him or hurt any more on his behalf. It's been 8 years, Goo Mahng. It must have hurt. I'm sorry. I was the one who didn't understand you. In his arms, Goo Mahng's trembling became more apparent with every word. At last, Goo Mahng seemed to crumple under a great weight. He shuddered violently. Morsi could hear the low sobs trapped in his throat, could feel dampness at his chest. No. Goo Mahng frantically tried to shove him away. Morsi had only ever seen his Goo Mahng look brilliant and clever. This Goo Shishong had been backed into a corner, yet was still scrambling to lie just to push him away, just to protect him. He was so clumsy, clumsy to the point of stubbornness, clumsy to the point of pity. So clumsy, Morsi's whole heart, his whole body throbbed with pain. Goo Mahng didn't know what else he could make excuses for, what else he could offer up in sacrifice. He had always protected others. It was an instinct carved into his bones. Now, no longer able to do so, he was as helpless as a blinded dragon with its claws torn away. He could only repeat over and over, "It's not like this. You don't understand." Morsi took hold of his hand, the rims of his eyes red. "Must you keep pushing me away?" Goo Mahng froze. "It's been so many years, Shishong. But do you know what hurt me the most? It wasn't that you stabbed me or left me. It was that you turned into someone I didn't recognize at all. Do you know how miserable I was? You wanted to protect me. You didn't want to implicate me, I know. But I told you long ago, in this world, I have no one dear to me except for you. When you protected me, why didn't you think that would be cruelest to me? Did you think I would fear to suffer alongside you or the criticism of others? What I fear is you never returning to my side, Goo Mahng. I'm afraid of losing you." Morsi closed his eyes. He still held back his tears, but his lashes were wet. "All these years, I've always treated you sincerely. I used to hope my sincerity would be enough to win me yours in return. But after going through so much, it no longer matters if you love me, if you're willing to be with me. I only ask." He stroked Goo Mahng's hair, lowering his lashes as he pressed a kiss to Goo Mahng's temple, forcing down the tremor in his voice. "I only ask that you give me the chance to protect you, to stand by your side. I just want to take care of you," he said hoarsely. "Will you really not allow me the smallest glimpse of truth? Will you not let me share the burden you carry on your shoulders, even the slightest bit? Goo Mahng, I'm one of your comrades and brothers in arms, too. Would you rather leave me out in the cold, make me live on through pain worse than death?" He spoke so genuinely, with such passion, but Goo Mahng only felt a terrible agony. It had been 8 years. From the day Goo Mahng decided to become a spy, he had planned Morsi's future. They were so young back then, unacquainted with the suffering of love. Goo Mahng had naively thought that, as long as he acted with decisive heartlessness, this young man would feel that loving him was something that hurt too much. If it hurt, Morsi would let go, sooner or later. Goo Mahng had waited. All this time, he had waited. He'd pricked Morsi until his hands ran with blood, stabbed Morsi until his body was covered with scars. But still, Morsi never gave up on him. All these years, he'd hoped Morsi would put aside their past love, hoped he could live a quiet life, marry a gentle and virtuous wife, and sire a brood of lively children. Sooner or later, time would wash away the unbridled passion of their reckless youth, leaving only faint ink stains. Such were the considerations he had made on Morsi's behalf. But Goo Mahng had made one grave mistake. In this world, love and the lack of it could change, but one's heart would forever be the same. And Morsi had never been a careless person. On the day he decided to confess his feelings to Goo Mahng, what he gave to him wasn't his love. It was his heart. Goo Mahng suddenly realized something was wrong. Where he was pressed against Morsi's chest, he could feel that Morsi's spiritual energy flow was weak. His spiritual core almost shattered. Once more, those scenes from the Asura room flashed through his mind. Morsi's face had been terrifyingly pale when he rescued him. Could it be? Goo Mahng jerked his head up. "How did you learn the truth?" Morsi didn't respond. "Did you go to Bat Island again? Did you use the time mirror?" As Morsi looked down into Goo Mahng's anxious face, into those uneasy and frightened blue eyes, a soft, sorrowful smile spread over his face. "Are you worried about me?" Before Goo Mahng could answer, Morsi ducked to kiss his brow, as if terrified he might deny it. "It's fine." But Goo Mahng's heart seemed to rend apart. A flood of guesses rushed into his mind like the tide, then retreated, leaving one clear answer in the sand. This time, Goo Mahng didn't ask. Tears streamed down his soft cheeks as he mumbled. It was the Jade Scrolls. His long lashes fluttered closed. Goo Mahng tried to hold on, to push down his emotions, to say something to clearly demarcate the chasm between them. But it had been 8 years. He had committed every cruelty between life and death, but nothing could stop Morsi from chasing after him, from walking along this little path filled with thorns. He had left behind obstacles and dangerous hindrances, but none had halted this youth's dogged footsteps. His little Shirdi had still caught up to him. When he turned in the darkness, he found his beloved from 8 years ago was no longer young. He was covered in dust, spattered in blood. The only thing that hadn't changed were those bright, obstinate black eyes. The lover he had relinquished ran toward him, overtook him, and stood in the thickest of brambles, panting as he said, Shizun, Goo Mahng, I've come to find you. Let's go home. That layer of ice shattered completely, bursting into gleaming motes of light. The man who had lain frozen and dormant beneath the ice was finally taken into his little Shirdi's arms. Goo Mahng could bear it no more. That bowstring strained to breaking for 8 years finally snapped. He burst into sobs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was the one who looked down on your affection and misread your stubborn, immovable heart. I was the one who made rash decisions in your stead and didn't ask which path you were willing to walk. I was the one who disrespected your wishes, who mistook what you cared about most and imposed my plans on your life. I was the one who deceived you all along, who didn't give you the chance to walk with me. It's been 8 years. I've injured you, harmed you, estranged you, stabbed you. I've disappointed you in so many ways. I even nearly killed you. Oh, why didn't you turn back, my little dummy, my princess, my highness? Why did you still risk devastation to uncover the truth, and then rush to my side covered in wounds? Why are you so silly? Morsi, I'm sorry. The hand caressing Goo Mahng's hair stilled. Misunderstanding Goo Mahng's intent, Morsi said, Don't worry. I know what you've chosen, and I know what you've had to face, endure, and sacrifice. You don't need to apologize to me. In truth, as I told you long ago, if you don't really love me and don't want to be involved with me, I won't force it, as long as you come back. As he spoke, the rims of his eyes slowly reddened, his lips gently brushing Goo Mahng's brow like the most devout prayer. As long as you're okay, as long as you let me stay by your side and give me a chance to share your burdens, Goo Mahng, my dear Shizun, that would be enough for me. At this point, he feared his embrace would make Goo Mahng uncomfortable. He lowered his head and longingly pressed his jaw once more to Goo Mahng's forehead, preparing to let go. Strong arms suddenly wrapped around him. Goo Mahng clutched at him like a beast separated from its pack finally returning, his throat already choked with sobs. This lost and wandering man, who had been alone too long, endured too much, and swallowed a secret in silence for 8 years, at long last broke down weeping in his lover's arms. Pressing his forehead to Morsi's heart, he howled with grief, as if to shed all his heartbreak and suffering with these tears. Goo Mahng hugged Morsi tightly around the waist, the slender ends of his eyes pitifully wet and red. Between sobs, he spoke the words that had festered in his heart all this time, the words that had nearly rotted to their core. It hurt too much, Morsi. It really hurt too much. He clung to Morsi like a drowning man clinging to a piece of driftwood, despairing and exhausted. Morsi's heart clenched. He caressed Goo Mahng's hair, murmuring in a low voice, I know. I did everything alone. I had to do everything alone. All those years, I couldn't say a word about how I really felt to the people around me. I killed the citizens and cultivators of my own nation, killed my comrades. It hurts so much. Morsi, I know. Morsi's voice was tearful. I thought I would go insane. Like there was a knife stabbing at me. Every day and every night, every hour, every moment. But I had to say, stab me harder. Stab me more. Goo Mahng trembled, closing his eyes in anguish. I didn't want to kill anyone. I wanted to come back to Chonghua. I wish Lu Changqing was still alive. I wish none of it ever happened. I know. Go ahead and say it. You'll feel better once you say it. I'm here with you. I'll stay by your side. But Goo Mahng had stopped speaking. He stared ahead with blue eyes washed clear by tears. After a long while, he murmured, voice low, I didn't want to leave you either. Morsi had intended to continue comforting him, to keep saying, I know, I understand. But this shocked him to stillness. For a long moment, neither of them broke the silence. There was only the pounding of their hearts. Thump, 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 so urgent and fast, as if some truth that had been buried deep within for many years was straining to break out. Goo Mahng was an indomitable person, always emanating a courage that reassured others. But right now, he was timid, like a person who had long wallowed in poverty, cautiously reaching out to take hold of a precious gift he thought he would never receive. His voice was a whisper. I didn't want to lie to you. I didn't want you to leave. I never wanted. There was a pause before Goo Mahng continued. I don't want to see you leave. I don't want to see you with anyone else. Morsi's hand paused. His refined features blanched, then flushed. It was obvious he had given up hope. He had accepted the idea of them being no more than martial brothers. As long as he could see Goo Mahng happy, healthy, and carefree, it was fine. He wouldn't force him into anything, impose on him, or otherwise bother him again. But Goo Mahng's words seemed to reignite the flame he had just extinguished within himself. Goo Mahng closed his eyes. Years of falsehood shattered with his next words. Morsi, I do love you. Morsi's heart seemed to freeze over. Its beating stalled. He gazed at the man in front of him, at that tearful and wan, yet genuine face. Even in the sweetest dreams he ever had, he didn't dare dream that Goo Mahng might sincerely speak these words. I love you. I've always loved you. I'm sorry. I was selfish in the past. I was the one who didn't think about what you wanted or what you were afraid of. I wanted to protect you in my own way, but I didn't know. Didn't know that you would stumble after me to make up for 8 years of lost time, that you would forsake the best of your youth trying to bring me back. I didn't know you were sure of your choice at such a young age, that you would devote a lifetime to one person. I didn't know that even after enduring so much, you would still walk beside me, even into hell. He fell silent. Morsi, teary-eyed himself, tilted Goo Mahng's face upward. He reached out to wipe the tear tracks off Goo Mahng's cheek, little by little. Didn't know I loved you too, he murmured. That I could love you for so long. Goo Mahng lowered his lashes. I'm sorry. I lied to you for so many years. Morsi was silent. Do you still want me? Dummy. Since the first time I confessed to you, I said once I chose someone, it's for a lifetime. Though Morsi's heart was trembling, he strove to appear calm. He had warned himself not to cry in front of Goo Mahng anymore. Those tear-dimmed phoenix eyes curved, an endlessly brilliant, endlessly sorrowful smile unfolding over his features. I'll give you everything I promised you, he said. It's only been 8 years. We still have long lives ahead of us. How could I not want you? After enduring countless unwilling lies, after experiencing so many sorrows, joys, separations, and reunions, the two of them stared at each other, blankly and foolishly. Their chance to reconcile and reunite had finally come, so neither continued to weep. But both understood, though their lives were long, they would never recover the health that once belonged to them. They couldn't set aside their cares and speak only of happy things, either. Destiny and circumstance had long tormented them, leaving them covered in wounds. But when their misty eyes met, slowly through tears, still they gathered all the courage and warmth in their hearts and offered it to each other as the softest smile. A pair of trapped beasts, both carpeted with scars, could finally hold one another and nestle into each other. With no distance or misunderstanding between them, the layer of ice had melted. They could finally take warmth from each other and share each other's pain. From now on, whether in the endless depths of winter or the eternal warmth of spring, they would be together, never again to part. Chapter 132. Is candy sweeter, or am I? I cannot with these titles. Okay. Slowly, Goo Mahng recovered. The situation was complex. Neither the emperor nor Shee could yet clear Goo Mahn's name. Despite his upset, Shee saw the emperor's reasoning. Goo Mahng wished to reform Chonghua. If his identity was revealed so suddenly, all his sacrifice and effort would be in vain. Both the emperor and Goo Mahng hoped Shee would keep the secret. But Shee had never been good at deceiving others. It wasn't that he was an unreliable secret keeper. On the contrary, he was strict, self-disciplined, and entirely capable of keeping his mouth sealed. What he couldn't keep sealed were his feelings for Goo Mahng, even if he said nothing and did his best to restrain himself in front of others. It wasn't long before everyone in Shihut Manor noticed the sea change in Shee's treatment of him. Previously, his handsome face would be flat and expressionless, as if Goo Mahng owed him 500,000 golden cowries and was long overdue on his debt. But now, even the tone in which he spoke to him was warm, his low voice pleasing to the ear without the slightest whiff of temper. While Goo Mahng was still recovering, an oblivious cook dispatched him to the kitchens to help stoke the fire. This wasn't taxing work, just a little dirty. Goo Mahng used to chop firewood and stoke the fires all the time. He followed the cook's orders without complaint. But when Shee returned to the manor and heard Goo Mahng had been pulled to work on the stove, he went straight to the kitchens and hauled Goo Mahng away amid the servants' terrified fluster. My lord," the cook stammered in fear. "What's this nonsense?" "I just saw he was idle with nothing to do," the cook said. I told him to come help out." "He's still sick. What is he supposed to help with?" He turned to Goo Mahng. "Go lie back down and go to sleep." The cook stared, flabbergasted. Nor were the kitchen servants the only ones who experienced such an epiphany. The servant in charge of maintaining Shihut Manor's treasure also had something to say. "Stoking the fire? There's nothing. I'll tell you something even more unbelievable. The other day, when Goo Mahng was trying to catch Fando, he was running after the dog so fast he accidentally toppled that glazed plum blossom vase. That's the one, the most expensive vase in the entire manor, smashed to smithereens." The listening crowd gasped in shock. Another servant asked curiously, "And then, what happened? Did you report it to the lord?" The first servant slapped his thigh. "How could I not? That courtyard is worth as much as a 5-courtyard estate on the north side of the city. How could I possibly not report it? I went right away to tell the lord what happened. Good heavens, that's the lord's favorite vase. He must have been furious." "He was indeed. Do you know what he said?" His audience shook their heads like so many rattle drums. The servant mimicked Shee's stern tone. "Who placed that vase there? What if it struck someone? Is he hurt?" The crowd gaped at him. After several beats of silence, one of the servants let out an undignified exclamation. "Wow!" No one could say precisely what had transpired between Shee and Goo Mahng, but the change was obvious to anyone with working eyes. Fortunately, the staff of Shihut Manor were a loyal bunch, and not much given to scheming. Under Li Wei's disciplined management, No word of this alteration spread outside the manor for the moment. Say, housekeeper Li, what's with the Lord? Whatever happened, a traitor is a traitor. What would the Emperor think if he knew? What would others think? Li Wei stood in the open-air corridor, hand tucked into his sleeves, and watched the ripples on the pool within the courtyard. Do you trust the Lord to conduct himself honorably? He asked. Of course I do. Is there anyone more righteous in all of Chonghua? Then we'll trust him and not ask questions we shouldn't. He has a reason for his actions. We're his own people. There's only one thing for us to do. Which is? Keep our mouths shut, said Li Wei. Under such attentive care, Goo Mahn's wounds healed quickly. The Fey Wolf blood with which he was tempered made his body sturdier than before. But the painful fact remained that although Jiang Fuli could heal the wounds on his body, he could do nothing to stop the deterioration of the time mirror's effect. Those memories flashed back by the Shangao slowly disappeared from Goo Mahn's mind like flowing sand. Goo Mahng knew if he didn't say certain things now, he wouldn't get a chance to in the future. The lucidity he'd been granted was no more than a beautiful illusion, an act of pity by the heavens. He asked Moshi for a paper and brush. When Moshi was there, he spoke with him. And when Moshi was not, he sat alone, setting down the things he remembered in writing. Every day, when he woke, he read what he wrote the day before. If there was anything he had forgotten, he would memorize it anew. He was doing his utmost to maintain this small measure of clarity. Once, when Goo Mahng was sleeping, Moshi glanced at some of the expensive sheaves of paper he had stacked by his pillow. The most eye-catching passage told of their first meeting at the academy. In it, Goo Mahng had written, He sat beneath a tree, eating a zongzi. He looked up and glanced at me, but unfortunately, his face was a complete blank. He probably had no impression of me at all. He would have kept reading, but Goo Mahng stirred beside him. Opening his eyes to find Moshi flipping through his papers, he sat up and snatched them from his hands. Hey, no peeking, no peeking. Moshi was momentarily stunned. You mind? How embarrassing would it be if you saw what I wrote? Goo Mahng gathered the stack into his arms. If you want to read it, at least wait until I've forgotten everything again. By then, I'll be blissfully ignorant, with no idea what embarrassment is. Moshi's gaze darkened. All right. It's not like I'll forget everything so quickly for sure, is it? Goo Mahng added. Look how I'm going over my memories every day. I might still remember all this in a year. Or, wait, no, in 10 or 20 years, right? Moshi didn't respond or expose Goo Mahn's lies. He merely lifted a hand and cupped the back of Goo Mahng's neck, bringing their foreheads together. After a moment, he took hold of Goo Mahng's right hand, caressing his lightly calloused index finger. There were so many devoted, sweet nothings he could say, so many oaths of eternal love he could voice, yet Shihajun only gently touched Goo Mahng's fingers. He only murmured, You got ink on your hands and didn't even wash it off. He sighed. You... Goo Mahng laughed. Who's the shushong here? Me or you? Who's the fiercer one? Me or you? What are you scolding me for? Of course you're the fiercer. Moshi smiled bitterly. Even now, I can't imagine how you did it. You knew everything, but you still said nothing and went with Zhou He to be a subject for black magic experiments. What else could I do? Sometimes you have no other option, just like you and His Imperial Majesty too. Honestly, I don't hate His Imperial Majesty too much for what he did. Those in high positions have little choice. He could have easily found an opportunity to kill me if he really had no kindness or desire for justice in his heart, but he never did. Moshi didn't respond. Eventually, he lowered his lashes, then wrapped his hands around Goo Mahng's fingers once more. His broad palms brushed the sapphire ring Goo Mahng wore. After hearing Muron Lian was the one who gave it to him, Moshi was genuinely confused as to why. But Goo Mahng's health had been so poor back then, and Moshi hadn't pressed him. He couldn't suppress a slight frown as he noticed it again now. Catching the direction of Moshi's gaze, Goo Mahng's lashes fluttered imperceptibly. Moshi noted every minuscule change in his expression, but he didn't point it out. Goo Mahng had lived with the Muron family and been involved with Muron Lian for more than 20 years. Some things, after suffering the twists and turns of time, were too difficult to summarize. Morsi didn't pry, only asking, "Do you want me to return this ring for you? Or do you want to go yourself?" Okay, really quickly, I just have to say this because if I'm right, I'm going to be like, oh my God. What if somewhere buried really deep in there, Muron Lian actually has feelings for Goo Mahng? Okay, I'm just throwing it out. I'm going to return to my reading. Goo Mahng was quiet. He stretched his fingers, examining that glittering sapphire ring. After thinking a while, he replied, "I'll pay a visit to Wangshu Manor myself." There was a brief silence before Morsi replied, "All right." Goo Mahng could hear the stifled discontent in those words. He smiled up at him. "Does it make you unhappy?" "No." Morsi paused. "But you need to remember to wear a mask and put on a cloak." His brows lowered in a scowl. "There is no shortage of people in Chonghua who would make things difficult for you." "I'll be careful," said Goo Mahng. The water clock on the table dripped. It was getting late. "I'll go back to the study," said Morsi. "I still have some files to look over. You should get some rest. If anything happens, come get me. No one will stop you." Goo Mahng smiled. You shouldn't take too much care of me. I'm still a traitor, aren't I? Show some restraint in front of others." Morsi's heart stuttered and began to ache. It stuttered because he had waited so many years, from his youth till today, when he was over 30, to receive Goo Mahng's true and sincere acknowledgement. It ached because they had been through too much, and many new and beautiful things were already worn away. They were like two patched pieces of cloth, whole but changed beyond recognition. His grim mood didn't go unnoticed. "Morsi," he said, playful. Goo Mahng leaned over the pillows, grinning up at him. "When you're done with your records, come back here and sleep with me. Don't go to the side room. If word gets out that you had me sleeping in the master bedroom for so long while you slept outside like a servant, people will say I'm bullying you." Morsi looked down, pursing his lips in silence. Moonlight spilled over the tips of his ears, revealing a faint redness. He quietly said, "You should get some rest." Goo Mahng's delight became more pronounced. He lowered his lashes, reaching out of the blankets to pat his little Shurdi's cheek. "Good boy." Morsi didn't say a word. "Too bad Shizun has no candy to reward you with." Morsi glanced up at him, then suddenly bent and pressed a gentle kiss to his lips. He didn't dare kiss him too deeply. An ember was buried within his heart, and Goo Mahng's sighs would fan it into a sea of flames. So Morsi only kissed him once before sitting up. "I'm going back." Goo Mahng touched his own lips. Was it sweet? When Morsi didn't answer, he asked again, without an ounce of shame. "What's sweeter, candy or me?" Morsi wasn't good with words of affection. When he was genuinely angered, some truly caustic statements could burst out of him. But when he was struck by a gentle and enamored mood, he became clumsy and meek. He didn't know how to respond to Goo Mahng's teasing questions. Instead, he lifted a hand, extending 2 fingers to gently prod at Goo Mahng's forehead. Goo Mahng kicked at the blankets on the bed. "Say something. I swear, you keep getting stuffier and stuffier. I won't be surprised if you stuff yourself to death." For a moment, Morsi was silent. Then he did say something. "In that case, good night." Goo Mahng stared at him, incredulous. Chapter 133. 14 Years of First Love. Goo Mahng prepared to go to Wangshu Manor to return the ring the next night. To remain inconspicuous, he put on a hooded cloak and a silver mask. Plenty of cultivators dressed like this throughout the cultivation realm, so he wouldn't stand out too much. Before he left, Morsi gave him a jade token. Interest piqued, Goo Mahng fidgeted with it as he asked, "What's this for?" "It marks the holder as a special ambassador of Shih Manor. Otherwise, what would you say when confronted by Wangshu Manor's guards?" Goo Mahng paused and smiled. "I wasn't planning to go through the front door. I'll just vault over the wall. Shee took him seriously. Yanking Goo Mahng close, he said, stern, "Don't mess around. You know Muron Lian's temper. You'll get yourself into trouble again." Goo Mahng was caught off guard, and the force of Shee's pull brought them nearly nose to nose. Shee lowered his head, his breath brushing Goo Mahng's temples. "Hold still and don't move," he said, voice low. He bent down and fastened the jade token at Goo Mahng's waist. Shee gave the task his full attention, his profile sharp and defined as he turned, lashes fluttering like two soft little fans casting shadows over the bridge of his nose. Shee's skin was smooth and bright. As Goo Mahng stared at him at such close quarters, he saw no blemishes, like jade porcelain that had soaked in the waters of a clear spring. "There," Shee straightened up. "Just show this and say you're one of my messengers. They won't dare stop you." Goo Mahng smiled as he stroked the tassel on the token. Without warning, he reached up to take hold of Shee's jaw, pressing close and kissing him. "Okay, I'll just say I'm yours." Lost for words, Shee gazed back at him. As he looked at his Shizun standing before him like the sweetest dream of his life, he couldn't bear to let him go. "Why don't I come with you? I'll wait for you outside Wangshu Manor." Goo Mahng blinked. "Why? Even with the token, you're still worried Muron Lian will act out?" Shee tilted his head. "I was just saying." Slow realization stole over Goo Mahng. "Is it that you don't want to be apart from your Goo Mahng Guga?" he asked, grinning. Shee pressed his lips together. It wasn't that he didn't want to, it was that he was afraid. He was scared to part with Goo Mahng. He knew Goo Mahng's lucidity had a time limit, and his past separations with Goo Mahng had been far too long and painful. Even a man as strong as Shee felt dread at the thought of Goo Mahng leaving his line of sight. Goo Mahng reached up to pat Shee's head as an elder brother would. Shee's heart seemed to melt. It had been so long since Goo Mahng had treated him like this. "I want to do this by myself, but you needn't worry. I'll be back before you know it." A gentle smile shaped Goo Mahng's slender eyes once more. "When has your Goo Mahng Guga ever lied to you?" "Absolutely outrageous," Shee replied. "All the time." Goo Mahng burst into helpless laughter. "Okay, fair point. Don't glare at me like that. I was wrong. You can punish me." "What kind of punishment could you bear in your current state?" Shee murmured. Even now, an innate desire for dominance and possession showed in his eyes, subtle but endlessly deep. Under such a gaze, Goo Mahng felt his chest heat and his heart soften. His little Shirdi was just like this. He might look restrained, but his heart was ferocious. Inside that body, with those long legs and that narrow waist, desire blazed like molten rock. Others only saw Shee's ascetic and self-disciplined facade. They never knew these parts of him. But Goo Mahng had thoroughly experienced it all. Shee was impetuous, rough, even ravenous. Yet Goo Mahng didn't dislike these things. Though no man of steel would like the idea of being invaded, Goo Mahng could vividly feel that Shee was pouring all his love into him, emptying all his desires onto him. The good, the bad, the rational, the irrational. This young man, new to love, had given him everything. In a flash, his young man was no longer young. His Shirdi became his Shihujun. Everything had changed, save for those eyes gazing at him, as sincere and deep as the first time he revealed his love and desire. Somehow, this first love of theirs had already gone on 14 years. In the end, Goo Mahng went alone to Wangshu Manor. He showed the jade token and smoothly bypassed the guards at the gate, stepping beneath the arching eaves of the open-air corridor. Wangshu Manor was as winding and convoluted as he remembered, infused with Muron Lian's particular brand of indolence. Couches, soft mats, little fans, and tea tables littered the courtyards as far as the eye could see, and a birdcage swung beneath the eaves, occupied by a canary sunning itself on its perch. It was just like its owner. lazy and unsociable. Goo Mahng made his request for an audience with the guards in the inner courtyard, then went to wait in the middle pavilion of Wangshu Manor, where there was a spacious garden. He remembered this garden. When he was little, there was a swing too. Toy bamboo horses had been leaned against the wall, and chicks, ducklings, and bunnies left to roam. All children loved gardens like these, and Muzhong Lian was no exception. From time to time, he came to sit on the swing and chase the animals around until the whole yard was in a state of chaos. When the young master wasn't there, little slaves like Goo Mahng would also run around the courtyard, using the excuse of feeding the chicks to steal a fleeting half-day of leisure. One day, Goo Mahng had been playing on the swing when there was no one around. As he rocked himself, he had, quite by accident, drifted off to sleep. Muzhong Lian entered the garden and instantly blew up, shoving Goo Mahng off the swing.
"Dirty slave! You dare touch my things?"
Muzhong Lian fumed.
"Attendants! I don't want this swing anymore. Tear it down, throw it in the pit, and burn it as firewood. It's too damn dirty. Such bad luck."
Muzhong Lian's expression that day resurfaced in Goo Mahng's memories. His gesture was so exaggeratedly threatening, as if Goo Mahng was poisonous, and if anything he touched so much as brushed Muzhong Lian, he would die from the toxin. Goo Mahng had still been dreaming when someone pushed him off the swing. Only after a confused minute did he recover and crawl upright. When he managed to sit up and turn his head, Muzhong Lian froze in the middle of his malicious shouting.
You...
At the sight of Muzhong Lian's face, bone white, Goo Mahng lifted a hand to his forehead and came away with a palmful of blood. The little boy had no idea what to do. He stared blankly for a few moments, then burst into tears. As soon as he started crying, Muzhong Lian panicked.
You deserved it, you lowly slave!"
he snapped. But as he saw more and more blood pouring from Goo Mahng's forehead, he grew afraid. After a few slow steps back, he turned tail and ran. Goo Mahng sat on the ground and wept. He had never seen so much blood, and his forehead hurt so much. Tears streamed down his small face, but he didn't move. It was nearly dark when a woman ran in from the courtyard gate.
"Mang, what happened? What happened? Hiya, how did you end up like this? Let Auntie Lian take a look."
Auntie Lian was the ugliest female servant in Wangshu Manor. Her face had been destroyed by fire, her features as ruined as a vengeful ghost's. Everyone in the residence mocked her, and the children feared her. It was only Goo Mahng with whom she was close. Goo Mahng had been orphaned young. He didn't know what a mother's love felt like. In those days, Auntie Lian would often secretly slip him desserts, sew him clothes, or teach him to read a few words. From those tiny acts of care, he did his best to learn the feeling of having a family. So, he burst into even more terrified wailing as soon as he saw her.
Auntie Ni, am I gonna die?"
He was so young and still lisped his words. He couldn't pronounce lean, so he called her Auntie Ni.
Hush, hush, don't cry. You're fine. Auntie Lian's taking a look. You're just fine. Mang, be good. Auntie Lian will take you to get it bandaged."
The ugly woman scooped the filthy child from the dirt. Even after so many years, Goo Mahng remembered her warmth and her scent. Back then, he had thought, if he had a mother, his mama's embrace would surely feel like this. He never thought Auntie Lian was ugly. Her eyes were clear and gentle. He'd always felt her disfigured features were like a mask she couldn't remove, and beneath it was a peerless, beautiful face. He reached out and wrapped his chubby arms around her neck.
"Auntie Ni."
Auntie Lian carried the child to Wangshu Manor's resident healer. He bled the whole way, crying piteously and refusing to let the healer tend to him. Auntie Lian crouched down to tease him and distract him from the pain.
"Say, Auntie Lian."
Mouth wobbling, Goo Mahng said tearfully,
Auntie Ni.
Auntie Lian. She patiently elongated the sound for him to repeat it.
Auntie Ni,
he said clumsily. The healer was a middle-aged man who looked down on this dirty child and this ugly woman. He patched Goo Mahng up, but not without mocking them cruelly.
What's the point of teaching this stupid child? Either way, he'll just grow up to be Muron Gong's servant.
Auntie Lian's eyelids twitched, as if suppressing some unspeakable emotion, but she was accustomed to humiliation. Given her status, fighting to get the last word was completely useless. She merely smiled at the healer. Then, turning her head, she patted Goo Mangh's tear-stained little face.
Come, say Auntie Lian.
Even now, Goo Mahng vaguely remembered the feeling of wanting to stand up for himself and Auntie Lian. He strained so hard his face turned red, ignoring the pain in his head as he turned and said with painstaking care,
Auntie Ni.
The healer was tidying the gauze nearby and started guffawing without reservation. At his shrill laughter, Goo Mahng stared emptily, then burst into another wave of upset tears. He was truthfully trying very hard. He wanted to pronounce the tones right, to properly say Auntie Lian. But his childish tongue couldn't do it. He was ashamed. He really was just a dumb kid, and this cultivator wasn't wrong at all. He was merely fit to be a servant. Only Auntie Lian would look at him, her eyes shining with tenderness.
Very good. Mang will say it right in the future. There now, don't be sad. An ugly woman comforting a filthy babe.
Was Auntie Lian ugly? No. In Goo Mangh's heart, Auntie Lian was the most beautiful woman in the world. She had phoenix eyes of boundless softness and arms warm as an endless spring. He was secretly determined to grow up quickly, fix his clumsy tongue, and properly call her by her name. But he never got the chance. Auntie Lian passed when he was only 4. Before she left the world, she shared with Goo Mahng a secret. This became the reason he stayed in Wangshu Manor, without defying or quarreling with Muzhong Lian for nearly 20 years. That woman, she said, "Special envoy." A voice called out from behind. Goo Mahng came back to his senses. He blinked away those memories, letting the wetness in the corners of his eyes subside, then turned. The head housekeeper of Wangshu Manor stood beside the corridor. "The Lord invites you in." Chapter 134. Muzhong Lian's Childhood. Muzhong Lian was in a little courtyard of the inner pavilion, smoking as he sprawled upon a summer bed. Several slim books were placed at its head, as well as a small jug of wine. As Goo Mahng came in, he took another long drag of ephemera before slowly exhaling smoke. "You may withdraw," he said to his servants. Murmuring acquiescence, the attendants left. Only Muzhong Lian and Goo Mahng remained in the courtyard. Muzhong Lian lay indolently back against the bamboo bed and looked at Goo Mangh's sidelong. He tapped ash out of the bowl, then put the pipe back in his mouth. "Fireball is so interesting," he sneered. "Sending a special envoy to my manor, in a mask and hood no less. Tell me, what happened?" "It's me," said Goo Mahng. The instant he heard Goo Mangh's voice, Muzhong Lian choked on the smoke he'd inhaled and broke into a flurry of coughs. Shock, anxiety, hatred, hesitance, even some unidentifiable emotion flashed across his face in turn. "You? Why did you come here dressed like a special envoy? Are you looking for a beating?" Only a small handful of people in Chonghua knew Goo Mahng had recovered his memories. He obviously couldn't show too much clarity of mind in front of Muzhong Lian, but he was the spy who had buried himself in the Liao kingdom for 5 years. Deception came as easily as breathing. With feigned sluggishness, he said, "Don't get angry. I've come to return this." Muzhong Lian blinked. "The Lord said I can't accept favors from other people whenever I want, so I came to return this ring to you." He took off that sapphire blue ring, placing it in Muzhong Lian's palm. "Thank you for giving it to me, but it's useless. I don't like it." Muzhong Lian appeared deeply insulted. He nearly jumped to his feet. "Do you know what you're saying?" "There are a couple 100 rings like this in Shiha Manor. If you like shiny little hoops, I can give you more." Bullshit! Can his rings compare to this one? Muron Lian's fingers clenched around the ring, furious. This one is... Goo Mahng peacefully waited for him to speak. This is... But whatever Muron Lian wanted to say seemed trapped in his throat. Eyes flashing with unsteady light, he viciously bit out. Forget it. Why should I talk about this with you? The ring was only lent in the first place. It wasn't ever a gift. Even if you didn't come to return it, I'd have gone to Shee Manor in a few days to get it back. Don't think so highly of yourself. As he spoke, Muron Lian slid the ring back onto his own thumb. Goo Mahng sighed. He hadn't really expected Muron Lian would so easily reveal the secrets of the ring to him, but he had figured he'd try his luck. The real reason he came to Wangshu Manor was because he wanted to take a look around. Within this residence were some relics he still cherished. Taking in Goo Mahng's silence, Muron Lian stared at him and asked, "What is it? Did Zhou He turn you stupid? Say something." "I'm not stupid," Goo Mahng responded haltingly. Pausing, he shot a glance at Muron Lian's pipe. "Only people who smoke that stuff are stupid. You're getting angry again. You're always angry," said Goo Mahng. "Okay, I'm a good wolf. I won't make you unhappy. I gave the ring back, so I'm leaving now. Goodbye." Muron Lian's slender eyes narrowed as he watched Goo Mahng turn and walk away. As Goo Mahng reached the arching moon gate of the courtyard, Muron Lian suddenly spoke up, sinister. "Hold it!" He stalked over to Goo Mahng and paced a circle around him, his tone clipped. "Goo Mahng, I seem to remember that, before you went to Bat Island, you'd already recovered quite a lot of your mind." That slender, long-handled pipe extended toward Goo Mahng, its curved stem finding Goo Mahng's chin and tilting it up. Muron Lian narrowed his peach blossom eyes further. "You don't actually think you're still a wolf, do you now?" Goo Mahng said nothing. "Let me think. Could it be you're here today to mourn that Auntie Nie of yours?" Goo Mahng stilled, then turned his head. "Who's that?" Muron Lian made no sound, his expression menacing as he watched Goo Mahng. Goo Mahng watched him back. A gust of wind blew through the courtyard, and Goo Mahng's hooded cape billowed. Muron Lian asked, "You really don't remember who she is?" Goo Mahng shook his head. "Don't lie to me. You were with me so long. You should have some idea of what happens when you try to deceive me." "I don't have any idea. I don't understand what you're saying." Goo Mahng lifted a hand to knock away the pipe Muron Lian had pressed beneath his chin, wrinkling his nose. "That smells awful. Why did you ever start liking this stuff?" After a few sneezes, Goo Mahng turned and left the courtyard without a backward glance. His face was calm, but his heart was racing. Why would Muron Lian suddenly mention Auntie Nie? Those who knew he had recovered his memories could be counted on one hand. Did someone speak to Muron Lian? Or could it be that Muron Lian had his own suspicions and took the opportunity to test him? Heart pounding like a drum, Goo Mahng strode out of Wangshu Manor. He stood outside the gates and wondered a while, but was no further enlightened. At last, he heaved a sigh and decided to let it go. Yet instead of returning to Shee Manor, he took a detour to the Jiang residence. Goo Mahng couldn't stand to see Muron Lian such a slave to his addiction. His old master was an undisciplined person. His father had died when he was very young, and after his mother, Madame Zhao, passed away, there was no longer anyone to keep him in check, and he still hadn't taken a wife, even now. He had every appearance of a wealthy and rich master of a noble family on the outside, but in truth, he was a wastrel bachelor with no one to look after him. Nothing good would come of letting Muron Lian keep on like this. Thus, while his mind was still clear, Goo Mahng thought he'd go to Medicine Master Jiang to ask for something that would help Muron Lian quit. When he arrived at Jiang Manor, however, Goo Mahng found that the one writing prescriptions in the hall was not Jiang Fuli, but Su Yu-ro. The medicine master's wife wore her ever-present veiled bamboo hat. hiding that face rumors called a calamitous beauty. She sent off a patient, then looked up to see Goo Mahng, still masked and hooded, stepping in. "Has the gentleman come for a diagnosis?" she asked lightly. "To pick up medicine. Is Medicine Master Jiang here?" "This humble one's husband has left a few days back to roam the lands. If your illness is not too complex, perhaps I can provide a diagnosis." "Why has he gone traveling again?" Goo Mahng bowed his head in thought. Jiang Fuli's whereabouts were always indeterminate. Of the 365 days each year, a good half of them he spent outside his manor. It was said affection put a man's ambition in its grave, but this saying didn't seem to apply to Jiang Fuli. The man had married a peerless beauty only to leave her alone at home. Though on second thought, Goo Mahng himself was scarcely any better. An unparalleled beauty like Shee had been right in front of him all this time, yet he'd left him unattended more than 10 years. "Is my husband required to write the prescription?" asked Su Yuzhou. "Not exactly," Goo Mahng sighed. "If I might trouble the madam, I just wanted to ask if there are any methods to quit smoking drugs like ephemera." "The gentleman is from Wangshu Manor?" "More or less." "Then I must ask you to leave." Goo Mahng's eyes widened behind his mask. "Why?" "You must know Wangshu himself has no desire to quit this drug. Medicine is but a tool. The heart is still the master. If he wholeheartedly wants to smoke, any medicine will be useless, no matter how potent. Why would I ruin my medicine master Menor's reputation?" Goo Mahng opened his mouth to argue, but Madame Su did have a point. If Lian wanted to smoke, who could stop him? Despite his deep anxiety, he could do nothing but sigh, thank Su Yuzhou, and leave Jiang Manor empty-handed. In truth, Goo Mahng's feelings about Lian were complicated. He thoroughly disagreed with many of Lian's methods on one hand, but on the other, he understood Lian's mindset more than most, and couldn't help but pity him. Lian's father died many years ago. His mother, Madame Zhao, had hoped to raise her son in the image of the former Wangshu Juan. She wholly strangled Lian's own natural talents, insisting he walk a path in all ways identical to his father. Goo Mahng remembered quite clearly how Lian had loved illusion techniques when he was younger. He'd often sat in the courtyards, filling the pavilion with colorful butterflies and swaying seas of vivid blossoms. Madame Zhao, however, wouldn't stand for this.
"What good are illusion techniques? In the army, you can only ever be reinforcement. Useless. Your father was skilled in musical techniques. You're his child, so music cultivation must be your focus. Don't even think of wasting your time on anything else." Look at Shee. He's as competent as his father, fooling Juan. Is he more talented than you, or just more determined? Have you no self-awareness? Lian, by one more of these illusion technique scrolls, I dare you. See if I don't rip them all to pieces.
After days upon days of beatings and scoldings, those butterflies and flowers slowly disappeared from Wangshu Manor. In his mother's eyes, the things Lian found beautiful were trifles unworthy of mention, shamefully inadequate. While Madame Zhao lived, the words most frequently heard in the estate were,
Lian, follow your father's example. Don't bring shame to Wangshu Manor.
Lian lived in the mold of his father. No one cared that he was a different person entirely. The moment he did something outside the confines of this compartment, they cruelly cut his flesh away, ignoring any pain he felt at the mutilation of his dreams. When he failed to meet expectations, he was scolded viciously.
Why are you messing around? Go cultivate properly. How can you be tired? You've barely done anything. Lian, what progress have you made? You have the best of everything. If you can't make something of yourself, no one will make excuses for you.
Goo Mahng remembered how Lian had struggled violently at first, shouting back at his mother as he ran out of the residence in tears.
But I like illusion techniques. I don't like the teen. Why are you forcing me? I don't want to be Murong Xuan's son anymore. Whoever wants to take my place can go ahead.
These words earned him Madame Zhao's explosive rage. It marked the first and only time Lian received a brutal beating. The tiny boy had been battered bloody, crying as he lay in bed, sobs hitching in his throat. He had looked unbelievably pitiable. Goo Mahng had watched him grow up. He watched as he was treated like a diseased plum tree, his hobby stripped away, his nature discarded, pruned into a simulacrum of his father. The young Muron Lian's resistance had faded into silent endurance, and from endurance into numbness. That child who had once sat in the sunlit pavilion delighting in his courtyard full of butterflies was never seen again. In his place came the flowing notes of the guqin in the practice room, and the melody of the jade flute filling the imperial city. In the bitter cold and cruel heat, amid the mournful beating of raindrops on banana leaves, lingering on in the same way, day in and day out. Others said the qin sounded beautiful. Goo Mahng alone knew it didn't. Within the music made by those precious instruments, Muron Lian was mourning his butterflies and flowers. He played their funeral dirge again and again. In the end, Muron Lian had become a bent and twisted thing. When Goo Mahng had forgotten everything, he felt nothing amiss with this Muron Lian who was constantly intoxicated by this narcotic drug. But after recovering his childhood memories in the time mirror, it troubled him. Others thought Muron Lian a rotten man to his core, but Goo Mahng had served him practically since toddlerhood. He knew better than anyone that Muron Lian oughtn't have wasted away like this. Muron Lian's personality, shaped by his childhood experiences, was vile. He had no qualms about playing dirty and deceiving his opponents if that was what it took to win. Like when he used that pair of slave siblings to gain Mo-Xi's sympathy for the sole purpose of seeing him whipped. Or when he leveraged Goo Mahng, during the incident with the slave collar, to coerce Mo-Xi into losing at the cultivation tournament. His actions, despicable as they were, demonstrated one thing. Muron Lian liked to win. And how could he not? He had been berated and pressured since he was young. He was like a dog who'd grown used to being hit. At the sight of the stick, his teeth would chatter and his body would shake. Striving to stand at the top had become second nature. Though his mother passed many years ago, this habit persisted. But what was ephemera? It was a drug smoked only by the weak-willed, those who lied to themselves and others. Anyone in their right mind knew a person became more or less useless upon touching a drug like this. Why would Muron Lian, a man with a violently competitive temperament, indulge in a drug that would rot one to the bone in the 5 years Goo Mahng lived as a traitor? And then there was the matter of the ring. Although its uses remained unclear, Goo Mahng didn't feel it was something harmful. That ring emanated a strange aura. He was almost certain Muron Lian had put it on his finger in order to help him. Muron Lian. Muron Lian. What did he know? What was he hiding? What had he endured? Goo Mahng frowned deeply, but no matter how he turned it over in his mind, he couldn't figure it out. Instead, he felt the beginnings of a splitting headache. He had to leave it unanswered. It was noon by the time he returned to Shih Manor, just in time for lunch. Goo Mahng entered the hall to find the table empty and the room deserted. Bewildered, he flagged down a servant entering the courtyard with a plateful of fruit and asked, "Jie, where's Shih-Jun?" The servants of Shih Manor hadn't previously treated Goo Mahng nicely, but most had quickly adapted to the situation. In recent days, Mo-Xi had shown Goo Mahng such attentive care that even the blind would see it. How could the servants miss the implication? That servant girl flashed a clever smile. "Ayo, why would Gu Xiansheng need to call me Jie? Please, just call me Xiao-Su." Goo Mahng was still reeling from this respectful new address when the girl set the plate down, wiped her hands, and smiled as she pointed. "The Lord was sitting under the orange blossom tree in the back garden a bit ago. Look for him there first. If you can't find him, try the small kitchen." "Small kitchen?" asked Goo Mahng, alarmed. "Yep." "What's he doing there?" Well, all right, you guys. We have made it all the way to chapter 134. And okay, we've got a bit of ground to cover, which before we do that, I just want to put this out here really quickly because someone said it under one of the videos as a comment, and I thought it was very interesting and possibly the case. So sorry that, oof. Someone thought that it's possible that maybe the Qiankun pouch that Goo Mahng finds very important and never lets anyone take or open is from the emperor. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, let's cover what we just read. So, man, I don't even want to say too much, but basically chapter 131 was the truth being revealed between the two of them, Morsi and Goo Mahng, where Morsi is admitting like, hey, I know the truth now. And they have this special, beautiful moment where, Morsi apologizes to him for not understanding him. And, Goo Mahng is trying to like instinctively like, oh, no, like, no. But then eventually he's like, okay, what else can I do? And so he apologizes as well. The chapter should be called I'm Sorry. But yes, I guess I Love You is a good chapter name as well. And we finally see Goo Mahng on page 19 admit that he doesn't want to see Morsi leave to see him with anyone else and that he truly loves him. And this is a monumental moment, you guys, because he wasn't saying this in the throes of passion when they were having sex. This was while they were speaking with each other, airing their grievances, their sorrows over all of these years. So that really meant something because in the past, that was the only time he ever said, I love you. So that... such a heartfelt moment. I'm glad that they finally have an understanding between each other, that Goo Mahng was able to see like, I made decisions for you rather than letting you make those decisions yourself, and even Morsi coming to his full understanding, which we've talked about before. So then, moving to chapter 132, I think it's important to note that Morsi understands the emperor's reasoning, no matter how upset he may be, and he truly realizes that Goo Mahng wishes for reform in Chonghua, not just the emperor, but Goo Mahng himself. So yeah, everything that he has done, he has been willing because this is the goal that he has, The other thing, is, him changing the way he acts and the servants all seeing that. And I just love Li Wei because when someone questioned him, he was like, is Shihaju a righteous man? Yes, he is, the most righteous. So we don't ask questions. Clearly he's doing it for a reason. We just keep our mouths shut. I was like, okay, Li Wei, yeah, I think you are a fish. I'm claiming it. You are my favorite side character. So yeah, a win for Li Wei. And then the other thing that was mentioned as far as like Goo Mahng keeping track of his memories and everything, I think that is such a great idea because even if he loses those memories, he can read. And even though it's not the same as experiencing those things, I do think that that is something that will be beneficial for him because he's going to be losing the memories he got from the time mirror, but he's not going to lose the memories he's made as Wolfgaga. So, it will be painful, but he can be told and he can read like, okay, not a traitor. Everything's, figured out, or, we'll see how they go about that because Goo Mahng, Wolfgaga is different from regular Goo Mahng. So maybe like telling him the truth is harder. Maybe it would be harder for him to keep the secret, but I doubt it. We'll see. Anyway, so then we move on to him finally returning the ring. And of course, Morsi wants to go with him because he's just afraid to not have him by his side because eventually those memories are going to go. But anyway, in chapter 33, we have him having this flashback. And the most important thing is Auntie Lian. But I think it's also important to notice that Muron Lian pushed him off the swing. He was upset. He called him, dirty slave or whatever. But when he saw Goo Mahng bloodied, he became panicked and like afraid. So, when you're still young and stuff like that, even if you're being mean, you're still have a childlike innocence. And so there was a part of him that was genuinely like, oh my God, I hurt him. And then he didn't know what to do. So he ran. And then we have this moment with Auntie Lian. I'm glad that Goo Mahng got to experience some kind of like motherly love from someone and that he saw her as beautiful. And I, like you all, want to know what it is that she told him that made him never leave Wangshu Manor or never argue with Muron Lian. So then we move into chapter 134, where he finally returns the ring and he ends up saying that he doesn't like it. And I'm not going to lie, when he responded, the way he did and was basically like, no, let me go to it exactly because I was rolling. Well, I'm sorry. When he said, yes, on page 39, when he says, okay, I'm a good wolf. I won't make you unhappy. I gave you the ring back, so I'm leaving now. Goodbye. I was like, Goo Mahng, I think you like overdid it a little bit. And so, of course, with that, Muron Lian was like, you sure you're not remembering something, my guy? Because, like, he did too much. And the thing that Goo Mahng didn't even consider, and neither did Moshi, is that, yes, they grew up together. So Muron Lian knows Goo Mahng like the back of his hand. Cruel or not, like, the man was not only cruel, he was is obsessed with Goo Mahng. So, of course he can tell when you're lying, my guy. But anyway, I still thought it was so funny. He was like, I'm a wolf. It's like, okay. So anyway, then we get to see him having compassion for Muron Lian. Like, it hurts him to see Muron Lian so stuck on these drugs. And we learn about the history with his mother basically abusing him and like verbally and physically, it seems like, to try to shape him into his father. And so Goo Mahng, even towards someone who treated him so horribly, still has a compassionate heart. And I can relate to that so freaking much. I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. But it's just crazy to see his compassionate heart and to know that, yes, which of course, it's always the case with children. At some point, they had these wild, fanciful dreams and were kind, but then they were molded to become vicious people. And we already knew that with Muron Lian. We had said it before that we knew he was cruel and we wanted to know why. And so now we know the why. But what we don't know is what this ring means, which is what I want to find out, because Muron Lian was pissed when Goo Mahng said that he didn't like it and that there were other shiny things. And he was like, this is, but he never finished. And Goo Mahng also feels like that ring was given to him to protect him when he was going to the Asura room. So we all want to know what's going on with this ring. What does it mean? Who gave it to whom first? Who did what? What was said? All of that stuff. Because now this just this just makes me feel like maybe my outlandish theory isn't so wrong after all. Anyway, I am surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I was able to give you guys a little bit. So that was like the first part of the hubba-da-bubba-da. I don't know what I'm saying. The point is, it's 10:24 p.m. and I have done what I wanted to do and read the opening chapters. So I hope you all have an excellent day and or excellent night. Good sleep and wo einimen.